Hey, everyone. All right.
For the queen, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and booty walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog. When God made you, boo, you know he showed out. Mahogany enchantress, blessings overflow now. Picture of success, seductive silhouettes on a spiritual quest. Manifest and be blessed. Mother, sister, auntie, tribe of Ashanti. Rocking your locks, I got a close crop blondie. The curse and the gift, uplift, apply pressure. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. This is a podcast all about mental health and wellness and everything advocacy for our people. And each week I promise to deliver relevant topics that affect us because, you know, we can relate to each other in a certain way that only we get. So just a couple of housekeeping notes. Make sure and check out www.blackgirlsgettingtheirshifttogether.com so you can check out all the packages that I have, as well as the digital merchandise and some merch, as you see I have right here. But we're going to get right into it. Today is a bonus episode. I know you all usually are watching me on Wednesday nights, but we decided to do an impromptu bonus today. So thank you all for tuning in. Make sure and tune in next week because I have my shadow work coach, Cody Knox, is coming on. And with the holidays coming up, we're going to be talking about holding boundaries with toxic ass family members, as Bernadette is. You feel me? And then on the 17th, I have a fun show. I can't announce it right yet. And then we have therapist Nicholas Wright. And then I'm going on hiatus until season 4, which will start January 2022. Now that all that's over with, we're going to get started with today's episode. I have my lovely, beautiful guest, Bernadette. How are you, Bernadette?
I am good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm off today and it's beautiful here in Georgia. I think I'm going to ride my bike after we talk. Yeah.
That sounds good.
I know. It's sunny. I'm looking outside now. How's your day been going?
It's actually been rainy here. I live in New York. It's rainy, but it's not cold. So I'm really happy about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like your hair is popping too. What you got
Mm-hmm.
going on
Yeah.
over there?
Yeah, I got my locks here, my little very chunky locks, and I'm like, let me give her a little up and down. Let me give, put a little razzle dazzle on it. So yeah, had to come on, show representing a little bit.
I love it. Yes, we got the Lock Sisters on here
That's
right
it.
now, right? Matter of fact, when I was getting my hair done this morning,
Hmm.
and I told my hairdresser, I gotta go. I said, got an impromptu bonus. And I showed her your picture, and she was instantly impressed because all she saw was your locks first.
Mm.
She wasn't even looking at the Instagram. Anyway, so my motivation for this topic today, everyone, is because we've all been in relationships, and I'm sure we've all had failed relationships. And so this comes from a place because if I would have known back then what I know now, I would have had several successful relationships. And Bernadette comes with it. You need to go on her Instagram, and I posted all of that in the show notes, Bernadette. So everybody can get in touch with you with all your links.
Oh,
But
awesome.
oh yeah, it will be directly linked. And so, anyways, her prenup, her emotional prenup is what caught me because even though she says on her Instagram, if you're about to get married, but you have to be a couple and dating before you get to the marriage part. And that instantly made my antennas go off. And I said, yep, I'm going to ask her. And then I loved your vibe when we were on Erica's show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm feeling it. Everybody was so awesome. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, but I reached out to you because it was interesting. So that's what today's topic is going to be about emotional prenups. So before we talk about that, hey, want the funk? He said emotional prenup, let me learn something. Get your thank you for tuning in. He's tuning in from Germany.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. You need to look him up. He's handsome too. He's
Is he?
handsome, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he is. He's a real good looking guy. So yes, emotional prenup. So if you can, before we get into that, can you go into what unhealthy communication styles look like so
Mhm.
that it can be familiar with a lot of us? Because a lot of us live it, and then we'll slide right into what the emotional prenup is.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, for me, the way I have always experienced emotional unavailability, that to me is the number one thing in
Yeah.
unhealthy relationships. And so a lot of my work is around identifying what emotionally unavailable people look like
Mhm.
and how we cannot be that way ourselves. And I feel like the first thing that we really need to discuss is how we show up in relationships. Because a lot of what I think we don't understand is that the way we show up gives people who we're in relationship with the license to, either mimic that or show up with that or even just match our energy. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's like if we ourselves are emotionally unavailable and we do not understand even what we're thinking about enough to express it, if
Right.
we don't understand what's been going on with us and why, or why we might, not show up in the way that we actually want to be seen, then what we're projecting to others is going to be that kind of energy. And when we're in relationship with people, they're kind of feeding off of us. It's like, a give and take, it's an ebb and flow. And a lot of what we are experiencing internally is what we're going to project outwardly. It's what we're going to attract, and it's what's familiar to us.
So
So,
may I ask you a question?
of
Can you
course,
explain to the listeners your definition of what emotionally unavailable availability looks like?
absolutely. So, emotionally unavailable people have a hard time expressing big emotions. They have a hard time sitting with other people who are expressing big emotions. They also they usually are not able to articulate themselves well in terms of how they're feeling. And a lot of it is because they don't sit with their feelings. They don't understand how to even give name to what might be going on inside of them. And a lot of people also are really just almost shocked and intimidated by someone feeling love for them, feeling expressions of joy, feeling
Mm.
anger, all of these different things. And usually, emotionally unavailable people, their emotions are muted. And so, it's a lot of it is where, because of what they may have gone through when they were younger, some kind of traumatic experience. For me, it was being fatherless. That caused me to create the kind of defense mechanism in my mind where I did not want to think about why my father wasn't there. And
Mm.
so I put those things away in a box in the recesses of my mind, never to be seen and heard from again, because I just did not want to deal with any of that.
Now,
And
was your father, excuse me, was your father physically in the home?
he wasn't. He actually, I grew up in New York, in Brooklyn, and my father lived in Boston. And it was about maybe a 3 hours drive. He could come and see me anytime he wanted to, and he just chose not to. So for me, I internalized that to be that something had to be wrong with me, that he did not want to be in my life in that way.
Right.
And when I was younger, I didn't understand how to process that. All I knew was that I felt that it was my fault. And if I kept thinking about and harping on the fact that something about me is causing my father not to be there, I would have been a basket case. I would have probably, like been suicidal, all these different things, all of the different emotions that come along with me feeling like something was wrong with me at a young age and not understanding what it was. I could not deal with that. So what my
Mm.
brain did was it decided that it was going to put those kinds of emotions and all of that in a box in the back of my mind so that I could function every day without having this like overwhelming thought of like, why am I not worthy? Why don't I have any value? And all of those negative thoughts on me.
Right.
And so what ended up happening as a result of that is that our minds really does like to make connections between things. And so if it sees that the way in which you deal with something is that you don't want to deal with it, like this is too much for me to deal with, I can't handle this big emotion right now, I need to put this someplace until I have the capacity to deal with it. Anytime you have big emotions, whether they are positive or negative, your brain is going to tell your body to handle it the exact same way. Your brain is
Mm.
all about making connections and figuring out a formula to something that it can put on rinse and repeat. It is not
Ooh.
trying to sit up there
Ooh.
and try to figure out what is a new response to every single thing that happens, because our brains is a computer, and computers, you put in the code and it works the way it's supposed to work all the time, and that's it. And our brains work the same way. So for
Mm.
me, because I needed to not think about all of those things in terms of my father, what ended up happening is that I did not experience joy in any kind of real way growing up either.
Is this in
And
general or just with
in,
relationship?
in general, this is a general topic. I'm definitely gonna drill down to relationships, but I want you to get the understanding of what it's like to be emotionally unavailable, like in a
Right.
360 view. So whenever we are not able to process our emotions negatively or positively, your brain picks up on what you actually do. And for me, it was to ignore it. And so because I ignored it, because I needed to put it away, I didn't want to think about it. It was just too much for me. Now, if I'm in an experience where something is like really joyful, I really love it, I'm not feeling that joy at full capacity either. It's not coming at me full throttle the way it would if I was fully experiencing all of my feelings.
Right.
And so that also is a part of being emotionally unavailable. It's just being numb to feelings across the board, both positive and negative. And a lot of
Mhm.
people don't understand that. And what they end up doing is trying to thrill seek positive emotions, because what you think you're going to feel when you're in a situation like, oh, I'm on vacation, I'm with my girls, like we're having a good time, everyone is kikiing up and laughing it up. And you're sitting up there like, like this is great and all, but I'm not feeling what I should be feeling right now. Like, I don't feel like the emotion that I should have right now. It's because your brain has said she can only handle about 25% of this big emotion, even though it's positive. That's all
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feed her. The rest of it is going to be on the back burner to when she has the capacity for all of it. And so
Ooh.
now you're sitting up there thrill seeking every emotion that you want to feel. And a lot of it looks like you going shopping, because you know that you get that boost when you're shopping, oh, I got a sale today. A lot of it looks like medicating with serial relationships, like going from relationship to relationship because you're just not getting that feeling that you want. And it's like the beginning part of the relationship really feels good. You got the butterflies, everything is new and exciting. But as soon as things calm down, it's like, ooh, this is boring. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't have this feeling anymore. This must mean like, we're not connecting. I got to go find that thrill again. Some people do this with sex. Some people do
Mm-hmm.
this with alcohol. Some people medicate themselves with ministry, going from ministry lead to ministry lead in the church. I'm about to do all the things. I'm about to wear all the hats because I want everybody to need me and want me. And that is how they get their fix. Meanwhile, the things that are going on inside of you, the stuff that you really need to be dealing with, it's
Mm-hmm.
still left in that box that you put in there 15, 20 years ago. You haven't yet dealt with it, and you don't understand why your life is going in this kind of cycle. So that's what it's like to have a emotionally stunted view, or even to
Mm-hmm.
be emotionally unavailable. It's not just the bad stuff.
If we can go back a little, you are giving me chills up and down my arm. You are speaking my life. And if anything that Bernadette is saying is resonating with you, drop your emoji, your light bulb emojis right now, because I can't do it. And somebody do it for me, please, because I can't do it while I'm doing all the back end stuff. So I asked you if your father was physically in the house because I want people to see the similarities that the father can be in or out of the house. So with me, my father was physically present, but he was emotionally unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't get it until going to therapy that the dad can be in the house and it still be the same experience that you had, right?
Right.
And so when I started out on this self-discovery, and learning and, my self-mastery, and I remember people saying, well, your father, you grew up with a 2-household family. So what are you talking about? But I still knew something innate wasn't right. It just
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel right. It goes back to that intuition, spidey senses, energy, whatever you want to call it. People know you
Yeah.
have that feeling. So I went through this whole time being secondary gas lit. Well, we have a 2-parent home. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I'm living an aligned life just like you and probably several people in the chat right now.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
even though I did not I was emotionally numb in a different way. It looked different, but it was still the same.
Mm-hmm.
So how you say that you were suppressed, I was on the total opposite end of the spectrum. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you listen to some of my podcasts, and I'll tell people like, yeah, I was living pretty reckless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some things I'm not going to say, but
Right.
what I
Right.
can say is that I've lived recklessly,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
physically, like you name it. It just
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And I get that. And honestly, like, I completely understand that. And I talk about that too. I'm pretty transparent about my story, because I was living recklessly too. And a lot of
See,
it was because I was trying to fill a void. And I was like, on a mission to figure out, well, what is this thing that I need to put here? Well, let's just try all the things. Let's just get on out here and see what we can
right.
do. You know what I mean?
May
And
I
see
read
like
some of the
what feeling I
comments?
get. Of course.
Yeah, you're getting a lot. So let's see, where do I start? So what the funk? He said, emotional prenup, let me learn something. And Erica, She's my co-host with Dope Talking Dope Shift. She said good
Mm.
afternoon. The lovely Patrice. She was on Wednesday, but let's see. Nikki Pooh, hello. All right, this is what we want. So, what the funk said, damn, that is a trait many of us grow up feeling,
Mm-hmm.
that void. I'm sure that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Erica said this is some good stuff. Hey, Tashara. She said hello to you, Bernadette.
Hey.
And Erica said thrill seeking. Woo. You know what? I'm gonna be transparent. I'm not gonna say what. I don't think how many times I could have been arrested, unalived. I'm serious.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that thrill seeking, and it was never enough. And then when I was able to literally slide through and get over on the other side, okay, what's next?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a drug. It's a
Yeah.
drug. And what the funk said, and most of us simply think or we're told all men are horrible, exactly, and not emotionally involved as fathers. Then later, as we grow older, a lot of us learn the lies mothers told by telling her side.
Mm. That there's something to be said there. There's definitely something to be said there. I feel like there are a lot of situations where mothers do weaponize the relationship with their children in
Yes.
order to get a reaction out of the father. And I do not think that that's right at all, because
It's
all that's
horrible.
doing is horrible. Yeah, but all
That's
it's doing,
abuse.
it is. It's creating these kinds of situations in their children where they have these issues that they then need to go to therapy for, or they have to heal from. There's so much that goes along with that, that I don't think that women who do this understand. They don't understand the ramifications of these kinds of actions. They think that, you know what, that it's supposed to be almost a pay to play situation. And that's not the case, because your children are people who are going to grow up having so many identity issues, so many hurts that they have to get over when we do things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I really wish that parents wouldn't do this. I really do.
Story time. So I'm gonna tell you a story. We'll call him John Doe. And John Doe, he has a daughter. This is a true story. He has a daughter, he's divorced, and the mother, she was so emotionally unavailable. And because they were divorced or newly divorced, she used their child as a pawn. And he would always wonder why was his daughter always so standoffish to him. That's because she was peppering her ears with all this negativity about John Doe. So then I guess to play with him, she said, well, I want you to come see your daughter. You know, there's some play or something. So John drove all the way from Georgia to Texas. She left. She decided at the last minute that she wanted to go to Disneyland. So then she went to Florida. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then lied to the daughter. So now, in turn, now she is probably 18. Now she has daddy issues. But it
And it
wasn't,
didn't have to be that way.
did not have to be that way.
And you
Now
know
she gotta
what?
go see you.
And you know what I have seen a lot is that women who do this typically have not had their fathers in their lives. And so they do not understand the importance of
Mhm.
having a father in their life, because a lot of them are like, my father wasn't there and I grew up fine and nothing is wrong with me. And this is
Mhm.
because they have not yet met themselves in terms of what has actually been happening, how they've shown up, and the fact that they continue to have these same cycles of relationships that they don't want, when
Mhm.
all the while what they're yearning for is to be deeply seen, deeply understood, loved, and supported, and not realizing that what they're doing and what they give off is really attracting the opposite. So these women,
Can you explain that?
Of course.
Mhm.
Whenever we show up as a representative of who we are and not as our most authentic self, what ends up happening is that the people who we are attracting, number one, they're attracted to what we give off. And many people, when they're not self-aware, are giving off emotional unavailability energy. They're giving off, like, I have a wall up and you have to work in order to get around it or to get me to put this down or whatever it is. And
Mhm.
because a lot of people are not self-aware enough to know that if something happens that is upsetting to them, instead of saying, what happened really upset me because of A, B, and C, they will shut down, they will lash out, they will have some kind of fear based response that ends up confusing the person, that ends up
Mm.
not communicating what they really wanted to say. And all it is creating a spiral. So now this person is now thinking to themselves, okay, I don't know exactly what happened here, but let me try not to do this thing again. And there isn't any real understanding about what happened. And so if it does happen again now, you're bracing for impact because the person is going to be triggered and they're going to respond in some kind of triggering way, but they're not really letting you know exactly why they felt the way that they did. So
Mm.
now a lot of it is, okay, um, I understand that this person doesn't like this, but I don't know why. And people tend to continue to do things when they don't have any clarity around what has
Mhm.
actually happened there. And so whenever we don't have this kind of self-awareness and we haven't done the work of like healing from the things that has really hurt us growing up, we are typically emotionally unavailable. We have developed coping
Mm.
and defense mechanisms that we bring into relationships. A lot of us have learned that we need to be a certain kind of way to be likable, to belong, in order to, not be abandoned and things like this. And this is all, the fears that fatherless daughters have. People who have
Mm.
dealt with childhood trauma always have a fear of being left behind, not belonging, not being liked, and things of that nature, rejection and stuff like that. And so we tend to learn, what version of myself do I need to be that's going to be most palatable for the people that I want to stay connected to. And in doing that, we're not showing who we really are. We don't
Mhm.
feel like we can be vulnerable enough to say, this is where I hurt and this is what's going on with me. And, I want to bring you in on this because I want to be connected to you and stuff like that. Vulnerability feels very sickening. It feels very hard. It feels very exposing. And when you're not the kind of person that is used to those feelings, when you're not the kind of person that is able to really tap into that and understand that doing that is going to bring you the kind of closeness that you wanted in relationships, you're typically putting up walls, and those walls are not going to bring you what you want. So
Mm.
just in terms of, a fatherless daughter who may be raising a daughter, if she does not know what it's like to feel protected by her father or even by a father figure, to be covered by them emotionally, physically, mentally, then she doesn't understand that that is important for her daughter. And a lot of that, you see that same cycle happening with women who did not have their father in the home and feeling like they grew up well and like, I made it, I'm fine. And so my daughter does not need to have her father in her life if he's not going to do what I need him to do in order for him to get this prize of being in his daughter's life. It is a
Oh,
cycle. It's a cycle.
I'm so triggered right now. Oh my God. Oh, this is something else. Can you explain what a big emotion could be or a small one? Because I want people to realize that it doesn't always have to be a huge blowout.
Mhm, mhm.
It's
It
the
really
real
doesn't, yeah,
silent underlying something on the underbelly that
yeah,
if you're not, like you said, self-aware, it can go right by you, but your body still feels it. What's that book?
yes,
The Body Keeps the Score
yes, yeah.
by what is it, Bessel Van Kolk or him?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from big emotions, both positive and negative, can look like you, feeling like, all right, so you went on a first date. I'll give a scenario. You go on a first date with somebody, and you feel like at the end of the conversation that this person really deeply knows you. Like, you guys are finishing each other's sentences. The person seems to understand you, like, at your core. And this is not something that you have ever experienced in your life. That feeling of being deeply seen by someone is a big emotion. A lot of us don't feel that way because we put on the persona of the person that we feel is going to be most acceptable to people. So when
Mirroring. Oh.
someone is able to like see what we're putting on and kind of get around that and be like, like speak to you in such a way that that they see past that mask that you've put on. That right there is both alarming, surprising, and thrilling. And so when somebody is able to see you that deeply so quickly, those kind of people are the people that you want to be around. It's almost intoxicating to be around somebody who sees you so deeply, especially when you have tried to put your best foot forward. And it's almost like they saw right around that. And they're like, I can see that this is who you are. And they speak almost like verbatim the thoughts that you have in your mind and how you feel in your heart and stuff like that. That's a big emotion. It doesn't come very often, but when it does, it's very jarring to our system. So that would be a big emotion. Let's say your friends took you out to dinner and they're like, okay, I got to go back to my house really quickly and change my shoes because if we're going to go out drinking tonight, I can't be wearing these high heels. I'm already feeling like, I'm not going to make it throughout the night. Come upstairs, we'll, get a drink or a pregame or something like that before we head to the club or whatever. And as soon as you go inside of the house, it's like, surprise, all of your friends and family there because they surprised you with a surprise birthday party. All your loved ones are there, the cake is there, it's a party, everything is going on. And you're like, wow, like you really went through all of this trouble.
Right.
That feeling that you have at being surprised. And then also when you think about like the trouble that somebody went through to really do something like this for you. And
Right.
you're now feeling like, wow, like they really thought about me enough to plan something to this extent. Those feelings that you have around that, those are big emotions. When you're in a relationship and something happens and somebody says something really, really mean to you, and it hits you at this place in your heart that brings you back to something that happened at childhood, and you don't know how to articulate it because you already feel vulnerable that they hit you in a spot that you didn't think that they would find. But they found it, they hit you there, and you don't want to let on that this is as painful as it is because you feel like they'll be able to weaponize this again. Like now they got the cheat code on like how I actually feel about things. That's a big emotion. And when stuff like that happens, we do one of two things. Either we retreat further into ourselves or we open up a little bit more to let the person in. And typically, if we do not understand how to feel and how to process those big emotions, we will retreat more into ourselves. Mind you, we want to have that deep connection. That's what we truly yearn for.
Yeah,
But
we're
because
pack animals.
it's too hard. It's almost like it's too overwhelming to have all of that on us at once. Instead, we retreat. We put the wall up a little bit higher. We don't respond right away. We try to keep our facial expressions muted because we don't want people to know that this particular thing hurt us as deeply as it did, or we don't want to have such a big emotion because we're not sure if people will be turned off if we really show how excited we are about something or how much we really want something. Like nobody wants to feel rejected. And so it's like, oh, if I tell him how much I really want to be around him, how much I really like him, how much our conversation meant to me because I felt so deeply seen, is he going to reject me? Is he going to think I'm weird? Is he going to back off? Because it's like, whoa, like you're doing too much. All of these things, like that's how we typically deal with it. And it's really just a spectrum of what emotional unavailability looks like. But that's it in a nutshell.
That's huge. That is so huge. And you think about how many masks you have to put on and the mirroring that takes place just to be accepted. And it's really not even, I don't think has anything to do with the current relationship. It respect there. Wow. May I read a couple of the comments are
Of
coming in.
course.
I apologize, everyone. Oh, and if anyone has any questions for Bernadette, respectfully, put them in the comments. You, well, yeah, I have to say that because one time I opened up the line and I opened up the stream and this man came on. These are new glasses. I didn't have my
Mhm.
glasses. And when I brought him on screen, he was, yeah, he was
Oh boy.
naked
Oh
holding
no.
a big one in his hand. And
Oh
I was like,
wow.
what is going on? And yeah, that's where the respectfully part comes. I did look at it for a minute before I took it off, but okay, dope
Mm-mm.
discussion. She said some people get addicted to achieving the next goal.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a fact right there. And Adrian, hey Adrian said, "Don't f your feelings, trust your feelings."
Mm.
That's huge.
Mhm.
And Patrice said, "Rather you grew up in a two-parent household or not, you can still suffer from emotional prenup syndrome. It affects all of us differently, whether we admit it or not." And Erica, she said, many times it creates resentment towards the mother, and the child puts the absent parent on a pedestal.
That is the other side of it. Yeah, that's definitely the other side of it.
You want to go into that a little bit? I'm triggered, right? I'm so
Yeah, I
triggered.
can. Honestly, like
Ooh.
it's funny because I've spoken to a lot of men who are in this position where the mother of their children has used the kids against them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them have this stance where they're like, you know what? I'm just going to wait until she gets old enough to be able to communicate with me on her own. Like when she has her own cell phone and, she's in junior high school or high school and she's walking to school on herself or whatever it is, I'm going to be able to then at least have an opening to be able to have a conversation to let them know that I was here, but this is what has happened. And
Mm-hmm.
so, whenever we have a situation where the child gets to understand that the mom was using them in order to get to the father, um, you know, Erica is right. Like, there definitely is resentment there. There's a lot of resentment there. And sometimes it's not so much that the father is put on a pedestal. What I have found is that the child will feel like, well, you should have tried harder. Sometimes I hear that a lot. You know what I mean? Like, well, why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you go to court? Why didn't you really fight for me? And that
Mm.
is what I'm hearing. And I'm just like, that kind of thing really, really breaks my heart because sometimes it still breeds the same, well, my father wasn't there for me. And, I was not worth it enough for him to fight like tooth and nail to have the kind of relationship. And sometimes that's not even what it is. And, in our young minds, we don't understand that the system is really not set up for men to get the same kind of treatment as women does. It just isn't. That's the reality
Mhm.
of it. And so it just feels like a rejection to the child. And sometimes, if the mom is exposed and the child finds out, then it could be a situation where, wow, all this time my father was trying and my
Mhm.
mom was blocking it. So it's like it can go either way. I've seen both. And I've seen fathers like really be almost devastated and not understanding what they can do and feeling like, there's no hope until the child gets to be a certain age. And sometimes when that child gets to be a certain age, they can either decide to engage or not. And now they have that autonomy where it's like, well, I don't
Mm.
want to talk to you because, you could have done something earlier and you didn't.
Mm.
It's
Ooh,
like it really can, and it's hard either way.
it is. Um, what would you suggest to a parent who's on the other end of it who has tried, but they're just waiting on, I don't know, for the child to get it?
Um,
That's heavy.
it is heavy. What I typically say is that not to stop trying. That's the first thing that I always tell fathers. I tell them don't stop trying because honestly, when your daughter gets to of a certain age, they will notice what's going on. They will be able to see things. This is not always going to be what it's like where they're just blind to what their mom might be saying. So I tell them not to stop trying to reach out to their daughter rather. And then also, like, if there are some kind of alternate ways that they can communicate with a daughter that the mom may not be aware of until they can fix the situation so that they have more access, I typically tell them to do that. So that can look like email. That may look like your child has social media accounts and you're following each other and you speak to them in the DMs. You know what I mean? Like all of these things. As your kid gets older, social media is a thing for them. So if you're able to do stuff like that, like, you know, sending them quick videos and stuff like that of you telling them how you feel and what you've been doing or whatever it is, like you can do that on social media where it's just private. You know what I'm saying? Like just they're seeing it and what have you. This is my message to you. And if you put them, let's say you put them in that friends and family, and your daughter or your son or whoever it is the only person in friends and family, they're the only person that's going to see this message that you put up on IG. And so you can like message them back and forth in that way and still be able to be connected. You know, if you have the opportunity to be outside their school when you know they're coming home or something like that, and you can take them for a quick bite, you know, like let me take you to McDonald's, let's chit chat or whatever while you're on your way home and stuff like that. Sometimes that's how you got to get it in until you're able to like get to a place where you have the kind of access that is legally allowed. Because sometimes, you know, it's like the courts are saying one thing, you know, and the parent is really trying to block that, even though the courts have given you access. So any way that you can connect with your child, and a lot of times as they get older, it's going to be through social media. I would say do that. Email them, you know, hop into those DMs, messages that only they can see, whatever it is, like voice notes, all of that.
Oh yeah, that's
You know what
amazing.
I mean? Like that's what I would suggest until, you know, the child is able to really do what they want to do, where they can come and see you and stuff like that. And the mom can't really say very much about it. It could be 18, it could be younger, but that's what I would say until then.
Those are all great points. I love that. So we're going to get into I could talk to you all day. I knew this was going to happen. I mean, while we're talking, I can think literally of 4 other topics I could have you on. But so we're going to get into the emotional prenup. And I love to read your Instagram post, which is what motivated me, except for, of course, Erica, with us being on the same show. But so with Bernadette's Instagram, the emotional prenup is an agreement between couples outlining the guidelines for which they will communicate and resolve conflicts in their marriage. And you also made a note that it can be a safeguard for emotional capital in such a way that a traditional prenup protects their financial capital. I love that. That's what really got me right there. And it is so eloquently said. So yeah, let's get into the emotional prenup of it all. And before we do, you know, if you all if you're enjoying the content, you know, I'm going to drop my Cash App in the comment section. And, you know, it takes a lot to put these shows together. And there you go. Bam. And if you would like to buy me a coffee, the link is dropped as well. And you can buy me a coffee, and that shows your support for all the content that I produce on this lovely channel. Now, emotional prenup, Miss Bernadette. Talk to me.
Okay. So emotional prenup, that concept is actually something that I heard when I was talking to my boy Derek, and we were on his show with the other gentleman. So Derek was talking about it, and I was like, oh, what's an emotional prenup? I just want to put that caveat there. I really, really love when people use words that are used for something else and are able to liken it to, like, you know, this thing over here. So emotional prenup, my antenna went up. I was like, what is this? Okay. So when I looked up emotional prenup, I was able to find a little bit of information, but just in terms of like what information I found, I realized that what it is honestly is like a agreement that you have
Mm-hmm.
with your significant other on how you guys are going to communicate when emotions are high. So a
Mm.
lot of us, we understand that when we're in the honeymoon stage of our relationships, everything is good, everything is Gucci, we're loving on each other and what have you. But then what ends up happening is that down the road, somewhere, over yonder, we're going to have arguments. There are going to be disagreements that happen. There's going to be uncomfortable situations. And
Mm-hmm.
we want to decide when we are still in the honeymoon phase how we are going to handle things
Oh,
when we
that's
are no
key.
longer there.
I
Okay.
love when you said that, when we are in the honeymoon
Yes,
phase.
yes. That's the key to this, because you don't ever want to figure out what your plans are going to be, like what your battle plans are, or what your fighting strategy is going to be like in the midst of a fight.
Yeah.
Like that's not when that's helpful at all, because
Mm-mm.
nobody has their head about them. Everyone is just in survival mode. Everyone is just trying to get their point across, and no one is really listening. So if we
Mm-hmm.
can decide, when we're happy, when we're in this place, when everything is peaceful, what we're going to do when turmoil comes, then when we get into those situations, we can remind each other, hey, we said that we were going to handle disagreements in this way. And whatever that looks like for you. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
caveat to that, though,
Mm.
because I spoke about this on my podcast. And what I am advising people to do is that you need to have an emotional prenup with yourself first before you
Girl,
can even
speak
talk
it.
about what an emotional prenup is going to look like with somebody else. And this right here, like, this is honestly like the meat of what my work is.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding how you're going to do things with yourself first. How am I going to show up when I feel disappointed in myself? How am I going to show up when I have not kept a promise to myself? How am I going to show up when I feel like I'm just not doing what I need to do and what have you? How am I going to handle those things with me first?
Mm.
Because until you understand how you're operating, what you're planning to do as a result of these things, and just coming up with like how you're going to handle your own self emotionally, you're not going to be able to translate that to anyone else, because the habits that you have with
Absolutely.
yourself, you take into your relationships with other people. So you first have to build those kinds of systems with you first and get used to doing that with yourself first. Get used to what it feels like to nurture your own self, to soothe your own self when things are going wrong,
I love that.
to celebrate yourself in your happy times when you've accomplished something, and to figure out, well, how am I going to deal with disappointments when I'm disappointed in my own self? Those are the kinds
Mhm.
of things that you have to deal with first. And once you're able to come to those kind of agreements with yourself, then you can move into, okay, well, this is how I can translate that with other people. Because you need to build up the capacity
Mhm.
with your own self to deal with emotionally tough situations, so that you can get out of the habit of not being able to deal with big emotions, whether they're positive or negative, so that when you get into relationships with people, you're able to handle theirs. Because a lot of people are not thinking about the fact that if you can't handle your own emotions, how do you think you'll be able to handle someone else's?
Right.
You're not.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to handle someone else's. And so first we have to deal with what does that look like for ourselves, and then we can start figuring out what is that going to look like with the other person.
See, that goes back. It's the running theme. I don't care how many episodes I've done or listened to. The common denominator is finding your true authentic self.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah,
That is it.
that's
And
absolutely it.
yeah, taking the mask off and finding your true authentic self.
Yes.
And a good way to find that, because I was that person. I'm still working on it. Well, what do you want in a man? Let me tell you what I don't want. I don't
Mhm.
want I don't, but we don't even know what we want, but we're so quick to list off everything, quicker and longer list of what we
Mhm.
don't, but we innately don't know what we want for ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm so triggered right now. Where were you in my early dating career? Huh?
Probably in the trenches with you. Look, okay. Let's keep it real, all right?
Oh my God. That is amazing. When you talk to your clients about this emotional prenup, what
Mhm.
emotions do you get from them?
I get a lot of shock, number one. There's a lot of confusion about what an emotional prenup is, and then there's also then the not even understanding how to go about it. And so we do a lot of work around just getting to the root of why they show up the way that they do, why the things that trigger them actually trigger them, and just kind of getting into like who they are,
Mhm.
why they are the way that they are, and why they attract the kind of people that they attract. So once we're able to get into that kind of work, and I can kind of like draw the line between what happened here when you were younger and what you're doing over here now as an adult, like there's a lot of aha moments that come. Like there's a lot of wow, I didn't know that that's what it was. Like I've been trying to figure this out for so long. I've had a couple of clients tell me that they've been in therapy for 2 years and they have not gotten this kind of clarity than they've gotten with me, and I'm just like,
That's amazing.
yeah, and to me, it's because I therapy for me, I think is great because, and I think that it's absolutely necessary. But what therapy does is allow you to come to conclusions on your own. And
Mhm.
sometimes you really need somebody who's from the outside looking in to be able to tell you exactly what something is, like make the connection for you so that you can kind of see. And sometimes it then triggers you to go a little bit deeper. Sometimes we don't even know where to start. And with a lot of my clients, they have spent much of their life hiding behind something and putting
Mm.
things into a box. And so, in order for us to even explore what's in the box, I have to find that box. And I'm only going to be able to do that when I speak directly to what I see happening. And
Mhm.
so, for me, like, when I'm dealing with just trying to help my clients to get to what an emotional prenup looks like personally before they even get into relationships, we do a lot of talking about, well, let's identify the feelings that you're actually having around the situation that we're talking about. And a
Mhm.
lot of them don't even understand how to give voice to what the feeling is. We talk about like the big six feelings, like we have the anger, we have the rage, the joy, the happy, and stuff like that. But there's layers to that. There's things that are
Oh,
underneath it
yes.
that we don't understand. Okay, I'm not feeling angry right now. I'm actually feeling embarrassed. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh,
Yes.
I'm not really it's not enraged that I'm feeling, but I'm feeling disrespected, or I'm feeling like, disillusioned, or I'm feeling
Shameful.
right. I'm feeling like, somebody tried to abandon me or whatever it is. Like there's layers to this. And so what I teach my clients how to do is to get to what the emotion actually is. And when we figure that out and they're able to really call it by its name, now we can start to get to work on, well, what is it that I would like to do not to feel this way? Whenever
Mm.
I feel this way, what would I like to see happen? And how much of that can I do on my own? And so now, when we get to that, now these are the practices that you have to start doing with yourself whenever you feel these emotions. You're not always going to have the opportunity to bring somebody into what's happening to you to help them to soothe you. So, how can I soothe myself? What can I do
Absolutely.
for myself in this moment? And when
I
we
love
figure out
that.
what that looks like, and trying to figure out how to do it in healthy ways, is not, I'm not going on a shopping spree every single time I feel, a big emotion, or we're not doing that, because now your bank account is going to be wondering what's going on, sis, when it's time to pay bills. Like, what are we doing here? So
Right.
how else can we handle how you feel right now? And when we get to that, that is what I teach my clients how to stick with. Okay, so you want to be able to self soothe. This is how you can do that. Now, this is the practice that you actually need to put in place when these things happen. And the more you're able to do this, the more your body is going to respond to different ways to soothe itself. You'll be able to self-regulate. You'll be able to really feel like, okay, I can bring myself down without having to go have sex with some rando guy, without having to, get drunk, without having to eat like 2 pints of ice cream or spend $1,000 or go fly somebody somewhere because I want to just escape. Like all of these
Stay
things.
out my business, Bernadette.
Look, girl. Okay.
Stay out of my business.
Well, you know what you brought me on here to do. So, okay, let's get into it. All right.
You are. I'm like, damn, did I give her my playbook? Oh my God.
Yes. I just teach them how to do that and get into the habit of soothing themselves in healthier ways, so that when it comes to them being coupled, now not only do you know how to help yourself when you feel this way, but now you can tell your partner exactly what you need in the moment. There's no trying to figure out how you're feeling or what you need. Babe, I feel this way, and I would really love it if you can run a bath for me so that I can just have some time to myself to kind of decompress or whatever. And then afterward, I would love to talk to you about how I feel right now, but I just need some time to, kind of just get my feelings in order before I talk to you about it. Now, when we start using language like that, and we start communicating in that way with our partner, not only do they feel less anxious because they understand that what's happening with you may not be about them, but you've given them a clear solution that they can do right here in the moment to help you out. And they want to support you in that way. They want you to be happy. And men, anytime you can give them the cheat code on exactly what it is that they can do for you to make you feel better, trust me, they're going to do that thing. They're going to do it. So once I just let my clients know that, hey, like the men in your life who love you and who want to be there for you, they want to see you happy. They absolutely want to be the reason why you have that smile on your face. And if you're able to give them the solution to what you need right now, even if you're dealing with something emotional, and even if they don't deal on emotional levels like that, they want to deal with logic. If you're able to tell them exactly what it is, do you understand that not only does this make them feel so much more comfortable, but now they don't have a problem sitting and listening to what all might be happening with you. There's no anxiety around the situation. None of that is happening.
It's a safe space.
They are exactly. You're helping them create a safe space for you, and they know that they can now bring their emotions to this place because you have learned how to regulate your own self to be able to receive when they want to start to share with you what's been happening. So it's creating the environment that you want, and we really need to learn the tools in order to do that. And I feel like a lot of us have this misconception that it's going to just come magically through osmosis, and it doesn't. You have to learn these kind of relationship tools. A lot of us did not see it growing up. And even if we did have a 2-parent household, some of it may not have been expressed in the way that we want to see it, or we can actually learn it. And so we have to learn this. And once we do, the quality of our relationships is absolutely going to increase, because the safe space that you have always wanted in relationships, you're helping to create that with your partner. And now you feel like you can be vulnerable here because you've been able to figure out exactly how you feel, what you need in the moment. You told your partner, they assisted you with that. Now you feel better enough for you to be able to speak about what it is, and they can now give you space to do that because they don't feel like something is going on, that they're going to be attacked or something is up with them. So it's just it's a new pattern that you want to create.
It is. And I left the Adrian's comment up. She said, I find a concept of strong vulnerability to be very intriguing. I love that because sometimes I feel that being vulnerable is weak.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It really isn't.
People out here who don't cry. Like, that's a human emotion, but it comes out in different ways. But, vulnerability is sexy. I know on a man, that is extremely sexy to me.
Yeah.
That we can effectively communicate with each other. And I love the words you're using. You're talking about increasing the safe space, and it also increases your emotional intelligence. How can it not rub off on your partner?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love what you said about finding your own self, because it definitely is easier to ask for what you want. But this is another reason why I am excited about dating again, because I've been working with a shadow coach. So have you heard of the Johari's window?
Mm-mm.
So it's two, I guess they're psychologists, they came up with the concept of it. And it talks about, you have like your open self, and it's just information that and you want others to know, or your partner. And then you have your hidden self, and that's things about you that but you don't want other people to know, or your
Mm-hmm.
partner.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the blind self, and that's information about you, or things you want in your relationship, or whatever it is, and you don't want to know others, but others know about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then this is the part I'm huge into learning now, is the unknown self. And that's information that you or your partner don't even know that you want.
Mm.
And when I learned about that, the subconscious is what I'm digging deeper into, because I only know what I know. I only know what I see,
Right.
but something that's back here. Can you imagine the man that I'm going to attract, because I'm attracting it to myself and
Mm-hmm.
other ladies, I talk with Tashara and Erica offline a lot, and we have some vulnerable conversations in our uh, message thread that we have, and bringing it to ourselves, like to our own selves, then to our friend group. Now it's spilling over into partners and romantic
Yeah.
partners. That's just amazing. And that's the exciting part of it, because now when you become clearer, you get coaches like ourselves, or what was it, the autopsy, the relationship
Oh, the
autopsy.
relationship autopsy. Yeah, that's my free training.
Yeah, which we'll talk about that too. It
Mm-hmm.
makes it oh, yeah, I guess it would make it easier, because now you have more of a roadmap of what you want, as opposed to just getting in your car and just driving on half a tank of gas, and you don't know how
Right.
the hell to get from Georgia to California. You're just gonna go on autopilot because that's what you think you know.
Right.
Girl,
Right.
oh my God. It's a lot. It
It
is a
is.
lot.
It is.
I I'm excited for your clients,
Thank
because
you.
yeah, it's just, we need more people like us. It will help.
Yeah. It would. It would.
Oh my God. So do you approach the males and females a little differently when it comes to the prenup, or is it just the one size? It kind of, it's fluid.
Well, right now I just work with women who are fatherless
Beautiful.
daughters, who identify as fatherless daughters. I don't work with everyone, but if I was going to work with a man, I would approach the situation in the same way. We may
Mm,
we may talk about it differently, because
mhm,
a man is not going to necessarily be as emotionally open as a woman would. If I'm discussing with her, I probably have to use more logic with him so that he understands. But
mhm,
we would be getting to the same place. And it really is just finding out, okay, what's the recipe or the cheat code for what we're going to do whenever we have a situation where you say something I don't like, or we have a disagreement, or vice
mm,
versa. How are we going to handle that? So I would handle it in the same way, because I really
mhm,
just want them to get to the idea that When things are really great in your relationship is when you want to start to come up with the systems that are going to support your relationship when things are not so great.
Right.
It's not the time for you to do that when you're in the middle of having like some kind of crisis situation. And this is why people are always telling you, that you want to prepare for the crisis before it comes. Like, you got your
Exactly.
crisis bag. It already has a copy of all of your important documents, like this, that, and the other, like some money, and all you got to do is pick up this bag and go whenever a situation happens
I
like that.
love
Like,
that.
we need to be able to do that in the emotional spaces that we have in relationships with people. And this is what an emotional prenup would help them to do.
It's funny. You think about how everything is always extrinsic. Like
Mhm.
if you're getting ready to have a baby, all right, you're right. Keep the baby bag ready so when labor
Right.
comes, we can go. But the intrinsic values we don't touch. But
Right.
you know, but you don't
And that's the
know.
stuff that spills out. Like, it spills all over everyone, like that's what dumps out onto things. And this is how we are able to ruin relationships that were really great that we were in, because just not understanding how to handle these things. So it's just as necessary.
It really is. So before we wrap it up, can we talk about your relationship autopsy?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So the relationship autopsy is this free training that I conduct, and it is really just it's a way for women to understand their patterns in relationships. And so what I have learned, like in the work that I do, that there are always going to be things that come up that
Mm-hmm.
we may not be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to sit down and really digest what has happened in your relationships and why, you're going to start to see a pattern. And when you see that pattern, it will help you to be able to identify how you've been showing up, what you need to do differently, and
Mm.
figure out what tools you need to employ so that you can attract what you actually want. And so
Mhm.
it can also show you if you're in a relationship with a great guy and you tend to sabotage it, because a lot of us do that as well.
Can you explain how a sabotage will look subconsciously? We know
Yeah.
Can you do both consciously and subconsciously?
Yes, I
And
can.
I'll give my examples. You probably
Okay.
hit on the same ones.
So the example that I always give in terms of a woman sabotaging a relationship is, let's say she's in a relationship with a great guy, and all of a sudden the guy is like, okay, I'm working on a really big project, and so I'm not going to be around as much as I was before. I'm going to be busy at work and whatnot. So
Mhm.
her spidey senses are starting to, like, tingle now. Like, he's going to be busy more often than he was before. Does he really have another woman? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't know if I like this and what have you. Mind you, the relationship is great. He's a great communicator. There's been nothing that should suggest that he would actually be out there trying to dip it and do it with other people. None of that. But
Mhm.
these are the kinds of feelings that come up in her because she has never experienced a healthy relationship before. She doesn't know how to conduct herself in a healthy relationship because she's used to chaotic relationships. She's used to
Yeah.
turmoil in her relationships. So anything outside of that is very foreign territory for her. So her system is already like, like, I don't know what's going on
High
here.
alert.
Right. It's already some kind of dysregulation happening with her system with being in the healthy relationship. So what happens now is she is going to start thinking to herself, okay, I feel like because he has said he's busy and I haven't seen him as much as I used to, I'm not experiencing him in the way that I typically do. Something must be wrong. And because something is wrong, I don't want to lose this relationship by it being ripped from underneath me. And so what ends up happening is that she starts saying to herself, you know what? I'm going to have to end this relationship before he does, because
Oh.
this is a new dynamic here. I don't know what's going on, and I don't feel comfortable anymore. And so what she might do is that she may say something like, and this is where it becomes conscious. She may say something like, okay, I am going to tell him that I want to hang out this weekend. And I'm going to drop very casually that there's this new restaurant that I want to try. And if this man does not say, hey, babe, let's go to this restaurant that I mentioned casually this weekend,
Right.
then I'm going to know that he doesn't want to be in this relationship anymore. And this is going to be strike one. Mind you, she's not telling this man straight out that she would like to go to this restaurant over the weekend. Does he have time to go? She is like, she has come up with this scheme in her mind. This is what it's going to be. And now it's like, okay, if he doesn't play into this, or he doesn't figure it out, if he doesn't like try to get this Morse code that I'm putting out there, then I'm going to know something is up with him. And I'm just going to be like, you know what? Like, I have to end this relationship. And so when things like that happen, where she starts dropping these little things, these little hints, but doesn't outright say what she wants, and her man does not pick up on it, all of these things end up being like a drop in the bucket of what's wrong with this man. Okay? And so when that bucket gets full enough, then arguments start happening with this guy, and this man is not understanding what's going on. He is not on the same wavelength as her. He has already told her that he was busy. He may legitimately be working and be busy. He has a project, he has a deadline that he wants to get to. And as soon as that deadline hits, he'll be back to being as engaged as he was before. But her fear-based responses of being abandoned before, of being in relationships where it looked just like what's happening here, and what usually happened was that meant that the man was on his way out. All of those triggers now are starting to come back to the forefront of her mind. And she's like, before this man even has the opportunity to leave me, because this is what's happened before, where the rug has been just ripped from underneath me, I'm finna leave this relationship first. He's not gonna get me. And so it's like, it makes it even worse when you're dating like a guy who's like really on the up and up, and you have never been in a healthy relationship. All of those kind of triggers are like on high alert now. And so that is how she can do it consciously. How she can do it subconsciously is by questioning his authenticity, by questioning his intention, by not accepting what he wants to do for her as being just normal in the relationship and how he would like to treat her. Always rejecting his, like advances or the way in which he would like to show her love, like trying to be closed off when he's trying to really get to know her. Meanwhile, she wants to be deeply known, like feeling like the vulnerability that he is bringing out in her at wanting to peel away these layers and getting to know her, it's too much for her. So her wall goes all the way up, and now he can't get around it, and nothing that he's trying is bringing this wall down, even though he's consistent. He's loving, he's showing her and telling her how he would like to be with her. He's made his intentions known and all of that. And because she's not experienced it before, she may not be able to believe that what he's saying is actually what he's going to do, because her experience has always been that people leave, that I end up always having to prove myself in relationships, that, like regardless of what I do, I don't get what I want. So when she's presented with this now, it's too foreign. Her mind cannot compute. Her brain is trying to figure out like, where does this fit into all of the events that she's already experienced? And because it fits nowhere, a level of fear and anxiety is on 10. Because we don't know how to handle this. We don't know what to do with ourselves in this kind of situation. So I can't be here because I don't know what's going to happen. And I sabotage it, whether it is consciously or unconsciously, because although I want this, I don't know how to handle myself here. And what I know is what's familiar. And what's familiar is emotional unavailability, even though that's not what I really want. So it's this cycle that has to be broken.
It must be broken. Speaking of Erica and Tashara, I think it was earlier today, Erica had posted a little in our text group about emotional unavailability, as well as being emotionally stunted. And here we are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, whole adults, but we still have communication skills of when the trauma happened, whether it was a big T trauma or little t, or even
Right.
in your 20s, it doesn't matter. You're still stunted. So this whole scenario that you just said, and it's so familiar. And I think Sister to Sister, she said that she used to do that. And if any of the ladies in this chat, if the scenario that Bernadette just said, if it resonated, put some light bulb emojis. But we're adults, but we are communicating like children, knowing what we want, but because we don't know how, we never went past that age, so we just stay right there. Adrian said,
I was laughing at that.
Adrian said, who is this man y'all talking about? I like to make him some shrimp and grits. Oh, not the grits, girl.
Listen, it's an
Hot
emotionally
grits?
available man. An emotionally available man is who we're talking about right now. And they
Right.
exist. They're out there. They're out there.
Exactly. And so she has this whole scenario in her mind, and then it goes to, oh, men ain't shit. No, sis.
The
There
men that
are
you're
good.
attracting aren't. That's the problem. It's the
Wait.
men that you're attracting that aren't. It's not all men.
No.
And you
no.
know, and the thing is like nobody wants to understand or even accept the fact that you're the common denominator in all of your relationships.
Yes.
You don't, that needs to compute someplace. If you're the common denominator, something is happening there. Something is happening there, and you're not understanding that what you're accepting, because we're going to attract all kinds of things. But what are you accepting? And people typically accept what's familiar to them.
Subconsciously or consciously.
Right. They accept what's familiar because you know what familiar is going to do. You know exactly how that's going to play out, good and bad, and you can accept that a lot of times. And
Right.
so when you're healing now, it's time to, how do you unlearn all of that? How do you start to have like these new practices and these new systems in place to where even if you do attract that, you realize like, I know that that's not where I want to be anymore. So I'm not going to accept that. You're not going to jump on these things because they're familiar. You want something different. And sometimes it's going to feel foreign at first. You're going to feel like out of your skin. It's going to be like, oh, I don't even know what to do here. But as you're healing, and even as you're accepting relationships that are new, you can be honest about the fact that this is new to me. Like, let's take this slow. Let's discuss, how we feel at each stage, because at least then you can go down this journey with another person, and he doesn't need to be like in the dark about like, maybe why you may do things the way you do or feel the way you feel. You're being transparent about it.
I love that. Yeah. And Erica said, and it piggybacks with what you just said. We have to make conscious decisions to not revert back to our childhood defense mechanisms.
Yeah. And that right there, but that's hard. I mean, what she said is absolutely true. It's hard to do that. And so the one thing that I would say to that is that in order for you not to revert back to like your childhood defense mechanisms or coping mechanisms, you have to build a routine of resistance with yourself.
Girl,
You
say
have
it again.
to have a routine of resistance. And that routine of resistance needs to come with accountability. It needs to come with, what am I going to do when I feel triggered? It needs to come with, I need to have some like ready-made phrases already. I have to have some cheat codes with myself, because I'm telling you now, it is very, very easy to slip back into those old habits that you had, especially when you've been doing that longer than you've been having these healthy, healing emotions and just habits that you're forming now. So a routine of resistance is absolutely important. And a lot of it sometimes might just be like, okay, I got a community of women that I can talk to whenever I feel like I'm on this ledge. I have to go into this chat because I know that they're going to talk me off. They're going to help me to figure out like what's really going on so that I can regulate my emotions again. I may need to pray. Some people may meditate. Some people may journal. Some people might need to be out in nature, because I know that that's going to calm me down and really be able to ground to figure out like what's actually happening. Whatever that routine of resistance is for you, Figure that out. And be, just honor yourself in that moment. Whenever you
Yes.
have these feelings, you feel triggered. Okay, I understand that I feel triggered right now. Why do I feel triggered? Let me try to figure this out, and let me go and do this thing that I know is going to make me at least get back to myself, feel
Mhm.
grounded enough to really be able to speak about why I felt this way, or to call a name to the emotions that I'm having, whatever it is. But gather whatever you need to gather to put in your
Mhm.
routine of resistance, because that is the only way that you're going to have the mental fortitude to be able to not revert back to what is very, very natural to you. And it's natural
Extremely.
for us to be like who we were most of our lives. That takes no practice and no thought at all. So get your
Exactly.
routine of resistance.
You know, as a child, it was common to be small in the household,
Mm-hmm.
and it translated into I have a big mouth, but it wasn't effective communication. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm still playing small, right? And I was talking to someone, and you're right, you just go right back because they said something. So now I'm very in tune on watching and feeling my triggers. So, a side note for anyone, if you're not sure about your triggers, you just listen to your body. Sometimes it physically comes out. But
Yeah.
my trigger reaction was to
Mm-hmm.
be
Mm-hmm.
small. And it wasn't a huge conversation, it wasn't a big, but it was something small enough. And no, Ursula, use your voice. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Right.
Use your voice. So, that those feelings of going back, it's very real. It's so real, but it's just like a muscle. You just have to work on it even when you don't want to.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Because working on the muscle is going to help it to grow. And the more it grows, the more you're going to be able to build the capacity to have the kinds of relationships that you have always yearned for. Because the
Mhm.
thing about being emotionally stunted or emotionally unavailable is that your capacity is very, very low for what you say you want. And most of us who want to be deeply seen, we want to be understood, we want to be loved and supported. And in order for us to do that, we have to show up as our most authentic self. And that
Yes.
too takes practice, and it takes an intention, because a lot of times we were trained to be our best self. You got to be on your best behavior. They tell you that from your child, from you're a child. You got to be on your best behavior. You're going to go into this person's house. I don't want you to touch nothing. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to sit here. You want to smooth out your dress, close your legs, hands on your lap, and say nothing. And so we
Mm.
have been trained as children, even into adulthood, to present our best self. And it's not that
Mask.
it's not as if it was the wrong message. It's just what that message tells our brain. It tells our brain that any kind of flaw, anything that we might do that might be human, is not going to be accepted in certain situations. And so we now translate that to be, we have to be the best possible versions of ourselves all the time.
The
Because
super
if we
black
crack,
woman.
exactly, if we
That's what it
crack
looks
under the
like.
pressure, if we have a moment, if we're upset, if we show a big emotion, it's not going to be accepted. We're going to be chastised like we were when we were kids. And so that is what we have to unlearn. And a
This
lot
is
of us suffer from that, even if they haven't really had a lot of trauma like I have or the women I serve, but many of us suffer with that whole superwoman syndrome, where we always got to be wearing a cape. We always have to have this mask on. We always have to present as the most perfect versions of ourselves, not understanding that in doing that, it doesn't give people the opportunity to see who we really are, so that they
mhm.
can now get to know that version of ourselves. Because being seen deeply by someone who sees our most authentic self is how
Mm.
we actually feel like we belong. And then that is what builds the kind of connectedness that's going to give us the relationships that we've always yearned for. And that's what we need to learn how to do. And showing up as that person, flaws
Yeah.
and all, is hard to do, because you're risking rejection. Like, let's be clear, you're risking rejection.
You are. You
You
are.
really are. But you have to be okay with that, because anything that you want in terms of like just being aligned with the kind of people that really want to be in your space and can see you and can support you, like getting to that is worth it if the few people who don't belong in your life anyway feel like, so uncomfortable by you that they want to leave. Like, people leaving is a gift. I tell my clients
Yes.
this all the time. When people leave, when the wrong people leave, that's a gift, because now it has increased your capacity for the people who are best aligned with you,
It
who are
makes
going to be able to
room.
support you as you grow, and who want to see who you really are. Like, if you always have to wear a mask with the people around you, those are the wrong people, because it's exhausting.
It is.
You
It
feel
really
so
is.
drained afterward. You feel so unfulfilled. And nobody wants to live their life like that. And many people are, which is how we get to this emotional unavailable state, and why a lot of us are so emotionally stunted, because we don't get to explore who we really are as individuals and show people that.
Erica, excuse me. Wait. Yeah. Patrice said it's just some people that don't want to do the work. They
Mm-hmm.
drain you. Oh, this is what I was trying to look for. Perfectionism was my heaviest burden to bear, and it birthed the people pleasing spirit in us and striving for performance based love.
Yes, yes,
If that's
yes,
not a mic
yes.
drop right there,
Okay. Erica hit it right on the head.
as
Performance
usual.
based love. And the people pleasing, that is something that fatherless daughters do expertly. Okay? Expertly. Girl, me too. All right. Okay. I am recovering from that now. Trust me. And it is a journey that I am likely going to be on for the rest of my life. And I tell people all the time, healing is not a fixed point.
It
It's a
isn't.
journey.
I
It's
used to
a
think it
journey.
was,
Mhm.
but
And
um,
somebody had said something that I wanted to address, even about that, like healing is not a fixed point. They were like, that's why you have to get your mental together before you start dating. And I feel like that is a misconception that a lot of us think. Like, we have to be completely healed before we can start dating. And that's not the case. That's not even true. You're never going to be 100% healed. There's always going to be something that comes up. There's always going to be some kind of trigger that may bring you back to something from your childhood. It's how you deal with it. It's whether or not you have the capacity to feel those feelings, let them go, and move forward. But whenever you are on a healing journey, you can absolutely date, and you can bring people in on that as well, because
mhm.
a lot of people will actually support you on that journey, and they want to see how you evolve and what have you. Like, you
Exactly.
don't want to get into relationships like, a basket case, but you can absolutely be dating when you're still healing, because now you actually need to have what we call disaffirming experiences. And
What is that?
disaffirming experiences is where you are experiencing something that disaffirms something that you experienced when you were younger. So for instance, if you I'm a fatherless daughter. I have never experienced a father figure like being a covering or a protection or something for me. That's never
Right.
been my experience. So I don't know what that feels like. So now when I'm in relationships with men and I attract men who are protectors, who are providers and what have you, and they display that to
Mhm.
me, where it's like, they want to protect me, they want to provide for me, it feels foreign because I did not experience that growing up. But having a person in my life who continues to do that for me and shows me the opposite of what I experienced, and it's healthy, it is called a disaffirming experience. And you actually need to have experiences like that in order for you to complete your healing. Just as what happened
Wow.
to you happened in relationship, even though it was a broken relationship, you're
Right.
not going to be healed fully until you experience the opposite of what triggered you and what made you have this trauma in a healthy relationship with somebody who shows you time and time again that they want to be here, that this is what they want to do for you, that they want to provide for you, that they want to create this safe space with you. Until you're able to experience the opposite of what traumatized you, the healing is not going to be complete. And this
Whoa.
is why healing happens in community. This is why you can actually date the right kind of people when you're healing, because those kind of experiences are necessary for your healing to actually take root and for you to be able to see that there's different out there and experience it in your body and feeling what that's like. And now having these new memories in your brain, now figuring out, oh, this is what this feels like and stuff like that. That is how we are able to now say we can now attract the kind of relationships that we want. And now we can
Mhm.
see exactly what we want because we've experienced it and it feels safe here now. I don't have to go back to what was familiar before because this new norm is really what I've always yearned for. And now I'm receiving it. And my
Mm.
mind and my body is now getting acclimated to what that's like because that's what I wanted.
You are saying something. My God. Let me tell you something. Girl. I love what Erica said, that healing has no destination.
Mm,
And the more you heal and mm, actively work on healing yourself, you're freeing up all, it's like that air, that balloon that goes up, and you just taking the bundles of the bricks off and just letting it go. And as you go higher, you truly are vibrating higher. You're going to attract someone that's vibrating higher. You know, if you've been at a 4 or a 2,
yeah.
that's what is common, and you're attracted to that subconsciously. Because I can see now, even when I talk to some of my new friend groups with this new self-awareness, just the bullshit that we don't put up with, and it's common, but we let some things go so that we can attract better and new, something healthy,
Yes.
healthy.
Yes.
You know, girl, you're getting so much love. We have some claps, and Bernadette is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And she is dope.com and is,
Thank you.
oh, I just hit 200 subscribers. Thank you for the update. What the funk?
Yay, love it.
Now I need 200 more. Let's get
That's it.
it. Oh man, Adrian, guess what? You are a Black girl that has her shift together. I hope you would come on again. I didn't even say everything I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, you were just dropping gems. I knew this was good. Oh, wait. Adrian said that this is better than church. Well, you know what? We got to get our internal together too, our
Yeah,
self-awareness together, our emotional intelligence together. Because if not, we're going to be in that same hamster wheel, and nobody has time for that. You know, we are all born perfectly made. It's just
hmm,
other people put their traumas on us, and then here
right,
we are.
right. Having to do damage control.
Absolutely. And then sometimes you don't even know that you're even having to do damage control.
Exactly,
But then if you
exactly.
go back and look at all your relationships you've had,
You can
that
see the
shows
pattern. You
you
can
can
see
see the
the pattern
pattern.
there. Yeah,
Right. And it
you
shows you
do.
how you were feeling about yourself subconsciously and did
Yes.
not even know it.
Yes. Yes. And that's what I teach with the relationship autopsy, how to recognize those patterns so that you can do something about it.
Mm. Any parting words? I mean, the gems you've been dropping, sis.
I think the thing that I want to leave your audience with is that you deserve amazing relationships. And that
Yes.
needs to be a mantra. You deserve amazing relationships. Nothing that you've done, no experience that you have disqualifies you from that.
That's
So the
right.
moment that you're able to really sit in that and accept that, you start to move differently with yourself first and then with others at the end of that. And so if
Mm.
there's anything that I would leave, it would be to understand that you deserve amazing relationships and to
Mhm.
know that those relationships are first going to start with the relationship that you cultivate with yourself.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
in doing that, not only do you build up your own capacity for what you can handle for yourself first, but it starts to give you the capacity to deal with other people in the kinds of relationships that you've always yearned for. But it starts with you. So that's what I would say.
Oh, Bernadette, you are amazing. For real, for
Thank
real.
you.
You really are. I'm so honored and blessed that we met the way we met.
Yes,
Again, we didn't know each other. We're working on
I
our
know.
self-awareness, cultivating our self-mastery. And then we had people come into our lives, and then we met on a live,
Mhm.
and the energy was just pinging everywhere. At least that's how I felt that
Yeah.
night. It
Yeah.
was amazing. And I learned something from every one of you ladies. I really have, which is
Yeah.
why I reached out. Yeah.
I'm really happy that you did. It was an honor being here. I love
Oh,
this conversation. It's
yeah.
almost like, we can talk about this stuff for hours. I still remember the first conversation we had over the phone, and we was like, we didn't even want to get off the phone. It was so good. So this has been really great. And I just thank you for trusting me with your audience. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. I told you 7 minutes into the live we were on, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm calling her. Let me stay on track with today's live
Right.
right now." But after, and I told Erica and Tashara, I was like, "Oh, I'm reaching out to this sister." They were
I'm
like,
glad that you
"Yeah."
did.
So, you all, thank you so much for engaging in. Oh, Adrian said, "Hallelujah, salvation and glory." Oh my God. So you all make sure and tune in, because next week, like I said, I'm going to have my shadow coach on, Code Knox. And the conversation, the topic is going to be about holding your firm boundaries during this holiday season with your toxic ass family members. We've all been working again on self development. Don't let a day of turkey F all of that up just because you're around these toxic family members, or don't become toxic again yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, right. So tune in. And also, I have a fun show on the 17th. And then, one more show on Thanksgiving Eve, and then I'm going on hiatus. And before I get off, I want you all to look at this flyer. This Saturday, I am also I have these beautiful
Mm.
co-hosts. Let's see. Let me get this off of here first. Hold on one moment. There we go. So Saturday, November 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am a co-host with two beautiful ladies, Tashara Lamar and Erica Warren. And the name of our show is Talking Dope Shift After Dark. And our topic is going to be about religion and sex. I've already had some inboxes. People already, they cannot wait to come on and watch that show. But that's what's going on. So it's on Instagram. So if you all just log in, but you have to make sure and follow me so that you can see the live stream. In addition to following people, please make sure follow Bernadette. I dropped her link in the show, in the comments, as well in the show description notes, and share this video. It's needed. It's needed. So you won't have to be on the relationship autopsy table. All right, you all have a beautiful weekend. See you Saturday at 8 p.m. on Talking Dope Shift on Instagram. Thank you, Bernadette. Stay on, okay?
Mhm.
Good night, everyone.
for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti. Black girl magic, melanin popping. Whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls